Hi guys, welcome back to another video, and today we'll talk about Zygopetalum orchids. I will actually use this beauty here that is in bloom at the moment to look back to one of my first videos that was about how to look after Zygopetalums, and I thought about to remake it to actually look back and try to talk about it yet again. And now I might sound a little bit less cringy than last time, and also I am a little bit more comfortable here as well. So let's start. Zygopetalums, they are part of the Zygopetala. I will write here Zygopetalinae subtribe, and they push out beautiful flowers with super intricate patterns. Some of these flowers, they will range from purple, green, and white. I think most of the Zygopetalums that I've seen bloom, they will have a mix of these colors, and that they will do have some different flowers as well, flowers with different size. The leaf usually is very similar to one another. I love this. I don't know, it's very wild flower, and I think that makes for it. Something that is really special about Zygopetalum as well is that they are all fragrant. So if you love fragrance, these plants might be for you. If you have fragrance sensitivity, I don't know, I don't super recommend them. I can deal with my Zygopetalums if they are not very close to me. For me, this one smells like mothballs. The other one that I have in my bedroom is a very strong, sweet fragrance, so I can deal with them if they are far from me. But if you love fragrance and if you love strong fragrance, these plants will definitely make your living room, your bedroom much more fragrant, and I'm sure you will enjoy them even more. So let's talk about the natural habitat. One way for us to get to know how to look after these plants properly is to understand where they come from, so we can actually know the requirements that they have in nature, and we try to mimic somehow some of these in our indoor homes. These plants, they are originally from South America. They will range between Argentina, Peru, and Brazil. They will grow in the canopy of the forest, so they will receive some dappled light, so some filtered light in the forest. Most of Zygopetalums in nature, they are terrestrial or semi-terrestrial, so they will grow attached to some moss, maybe even in the soil of the forest. And that's the reason why we have to take this in mind when we are actually trying to look after these plants inside of our home environments. As I mentioned, because of the nature where they are growing inside of the forest, we have to pot this plant in a type of mix that will actually retain some humidity, more humidity than only bark, for example. I tend to use terrestrial and epiphyte mix together or mix something in between, and usually they do fine. One of my zygos, I had them potted in soil actually for around 3 years, and they've always done super well. However, it started to grow out of the pot, and that's when some of the roots were not receiving the humidity that they need, so I had to repot it. This one, that is these two beautiful flower spikes, and it had 3. It struggled a bit because it was in a dark room, too dark for it, so I had to change its position, and we also attacked by pests, but I will come to that in a moment. It's potted fully in sphagnum moss. So, because they do enjoy the humidity, and I said they range between terrestrial, semi-terrestrial, and sometimes even epiphyte, I decided to go with moss, full moss. I don't add any bark in it in the mix, and they are doing super well because moss will give them enough humidity. And because some of these hybrids, some of these species were growing in soil or in moss in itself in the natural habitat, they adapt quite well to the moss mix. So that's what I've been doing, and they are adapting well to it. This one is full of roots. The pot is actually heavy, so they are doing super well. When we talk about humidity and light, they love, as I said, they are in the canopy of the forest, so they will receive like heavy rains in tropical forest, and the soil will be like damp, moist. So they enjoy their humidity. However, they can do well inside our homes if we keep an eye on our potting mix. That's why I chose sphagnum moss, because I noticed that these plants hate to be completely dry for a long period of time. They will struggle, the pseudobulbs will shrink, they will be completely wrinkled, and the leaves, they have very thin leaves, so they will actually exchange gas a lot, and they will lose water to the environment. Different from Cattleyas and even Phalaenopsis, these plants, they need a little bit more water. That's why I decided to go with a more retentive mix. Talking about light, they do require some light that is similar to Oncidiums and Intergenerics, and it's more towards the bright light. They need more light than Phalaenopsis, I would say, because the ones that are found locally, they are complex hybrids. They can be a little bit more flexible with light. I have one that is growing super well with some artificial light. This one was not blooming, so I had to move it here closer to the windows behind me that are the position in my house with the strongest southern light. If you have a new Zygopetalum, I would recommend you to try one of the brightest spots in your house. They might need it. If you have growing lights, you can test growing lights first, see if they are blooming. If they are not blooming, then change positions, because light is one of the requirements that this plant has to be able to bloom and rebloom. See, on the topic of the light, if, as I mentioned, they are not blooming, changing the position. However, if you offer them direct sunlight, it can burn some of the leaves, and you will notice, I think I might have, can you see the brown tip here? That's something that got burned by growing light. It was touching the growing light, and it burns the leaf. So direct sunlight can do the same thing, can burn the leaves. And if you notice that the leaves are all becoming too yellowishy, it's because it's too much light, so change the position. Something else, fertilizing. These plants, they do require their fertilizer to be able to grow new growths, new roots, leaves, and even to bloom. So fertilize it with your other orchids. If you have some slow-release fertilizer in your area, add it to the potting mix as well if you are not able to fertilize it individually every week. All of these can actually help your plant to grow healthily. Now, talking about some of the issues that these plants can have, or some of the issues that we might find while we grow these beauties at home, as I mentioned, is to figure out which is the sort of light that will be very good for them. Another thing is discover the mix that will be balanced enough, that will retain enough humidity for these plants to grow well. Something else is, if you don't offer enough water, you will notice that the pseudobulbs will become wrinkled, they will shrivel, so all of these are signs of dehydration. If you water too much, you might have a case of root rot. But as I mentioned, these plants, they enjoy the humidity, so they are likely to suffer with less water than a little bit more water. But I'm not telling you to keep these plants damp all the time. Don't do it. They won't enjoy they are not aquatic plants, so we have to bear that in mind. Another thing that I notice is they have very thin leaves, so with all the thin-leaved orchids, they are prone to pests. So because like other Oncidiums and Intergenerics, they will have a ton of growths full of leaves. It's very difficult to treat pests when it comes to Zygopetalums. For this reason, it's very important that you keep looking between the pseudobulbs and actually treat your plant at least it's 6 months to avoid a huge infestation of thrips, spider mites, and some other pests. This one has been through spider mites, has been through thrips. What I noticed, I use some neem oil. Neem oil actually prevents huge infestation after a while. It worked pretty well to clean this plant. I need to actually spray it again. I had no issues with neem oil to actually having a ton of oil that was destroying my structures. It worked very well for me. The only problem with neem oil is that it doesn't smell very good. So you're gonna have that fishy fragrance around here, but more than that, it did work well with this plant. This plant was also potted in a wrong potting mix. It had its roots exposed or being dried very quickly, which made me to lose some structures, so I had to bring it here, report it. So now it's potted fully in sphagnum moss. It's full of roots inside this pot now. And after I had this issue with the roots being exposed to the air and drying out, my plant was a little bit weak. That's when the pest infestation came, and that's when this plant started to suffer a bit more. But now I have it potted in sphagnum moss, very much hydrated, near a very bright window, so it has been blooming non-stop. So it's amazing because now we have finally a good result. Did you know that Zygopetalum orchids are named from the Greek words zygon, meaning yolked, and petalum, meaning petal? This refers to the way the petals and sepals are fused. Also, their flowers can last up to 8 weeks. As I said, filling your room with fragrance. So, yeah, this is just a curiosity. You cannot see it super clearly here when I look to this zygo because this is a complex hybrid. But I love the leaf, as I said. I love the shape of these flowers. They are so beautiful. And another good thing about Zygopetalum is that you don't need, at least in my region, okay, it might be different from your region. I found both of my Zygopetalums locally. They came not from orchid nurseries, they came from garden centers, if I'm not mistaken, which is really good. So if you walk around, you might find some wild orchids with super good looking flowers that will fill your growing room or your home with something different that you can actually look after, see it grow, see it pushing out flower spikes, and enjoy while the flowers last. These flowers, they last for more than a month, so they're quite long-lasting flowers compared to some other orchids. And on top of that, as I told you, they are not seasonal plants necessarily. They will push out flower spikes many times a year. So these plants are the kind of orchids that you can see blooming and reblooming more than once a year, different from some other orchids as well. And they have some different colors. And as I said, I have here a green orchid. That's not the most common color of flower when we talk about orchids. For this reason, I do think this plant is very special for me. The disadvantage is it is a massive plant, and I think the Zygopetalums, they can get very large, so you need the space for them. But if you do have it, I think you would super enjoy to grow these beauties. With that, I conclude my video. I hope you enjoy it. If that's the type of content you'd like to see here more often, hit the like button, leave a comment down below. Subscribe to my channel. There is a super thanks here as well. There are some affiliated links with some products down below. And that was everything. I hope to see you next week. Bye bye.